All right, super stoked on this episode. Joined by Jordan Mather here. Jordan has been insurmountable in my own practice, my Cash PT practice as well, and we've been pretty thankful to be working with Jordan and his crew over the last few years. But I figured we'd uncover all kinds of things today: marketing, what's working in 2024, and what to look forward to into 2025 for cash practices. And Jordan is an expert on all of these things. I really always appreciate his insight, and he's looking to figure out how do we nurture, take really good care of, people who are coming into your practice or looking at your practice. And yeah, I'm excited to dive in. So, Jordan, thanks for hanging out with us, brother.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to hopping on here and getting to help in any way that I can with those who need more opportunities to be able to finally catch the momentum that they need within their practice. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, Jordan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, how you got started in clinical marketer, and then we could really dive into some tactical stuff here on all things cash practice.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard me, Jordan Mather, I own a company called Clinical Marketer where we help cash physical therapists or aspiring cash physical therapists learn the business fundamentals to launch, grow, and scale a successful cash practice that can run and operate without them. Because we fully believe in service of serving others doesn't mean that you can't live a life where you're able to serve yourself and your family as well. And so we're really about how to scale businesses without making your lives harder. Primarily known as the like Facebook ads guys, because we've been doing it and we're some of the first to do it in this space very successfully. About 6 years ago, when we started really aggressively promoting and supporting cash physical therapists with their marketing. But yeah, been in the game for a long time, been helping physical therapists specifically grow their brands online since I was 18, 19 years old. So damn, that's scary. Going on like
That's
12,
crazy.
yeah, 12 years.
Long time, brother. You've been in the game. What I think a lot of people have this like misconception that like I'll talk to some practice owners sometimes and they're like, dude, like I don't think Facebook ads work anymore. Like it's mostly for like old people and like I think Facebook's dying. And so like you just hear all these like myths, man. So like I mean, I don't know. I know we're profitably running ads thanks to you guys. So how do you how do you typically think about that idea?
I mean, that's just an insane notion. There's not like 9.2 billion daily active users on Facebook.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Okay. So if you think your audience isn't on there, you're absolutely bonkers. And two, the Facebook and Instagram are one and the same. It's all meta. And so between
Yep.
the two platforms, you're hitting each and every population that you should be targeting. And you also have the added benefit of omnipresence. You're on both platforms, talking to both people at the same time, and they're seeing you on multiple channels, which is, of course, building not only your prominence, but your perceived influence because they're seeing you on multiple channels. So, advertising on Meta, and don't get me wrong, I'm not biased towards Facebook ads. Like, I love the art of building businesses, and that encompasses all marketing channels and all sales channels. I love YouTube. I got my start originally in Google Ads. Um, I love direct mail and the Dream 100 strategies. I love local networking. All these things are fantastic, and I've done all of them very, very successfully. But Facebook ads, the reason that we're known as that being like our thing is because without a doubt, it has provided the most consistent and easiest return on investment compared to any other channel that's out there, specifically for cash physical therapists. Now, if you're in network, Google Ads, depending on the competition within your area, can be a much more time effective and cost effective strategy. But it's the thinking that one is better than the other is what gets people in trouble because it's really about who's in your market, what competition is out there, and who are you trying to serve. So Facebook ads, 9 times out of 10 for cash physical therapists is not only going to be the fastest way to get to sustainable like 10, 20K months, but it's going to give you the best return on your investment without a doubt. And that's looking at hundreds of different clinics across hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in ad spend that I've helped manage and run to back up that statement.
Yeah, you guys like I've seen some just ridiculous like clinic startups. Like we're talking a lot of practice owners that they're struggling to get off the ground. They're struggling to figure out how to get to that next step, and they're really just trying to figure out how am I going to get my next cash pay patient in the door? Like how do I even attract these people? And like some of the things I've seen out of the things you guys are doing with some of these even startups is crazy. I mean, what are some of the big results you've seen out of a lot of startups? Who are starting some ads and really ramping up quick.
I'll give you an outlier example, then I'll give you kind of the median, what people can like really expect. But my favorite one was a couple that was out of Wisconsin. So kind of not really near me, but they're up north in a very rural town outside of a town called La Crosse. So it's like the small town off of a small town. So we're talking really blue collar. And they were at it for 2 years. Her husband was the PT. She is a functional medicine and wellness professional, and he was splitting his time between home health and running this business. They'd been at it for 2 years, worked with some of like the most known coaches that were in the space, spending an insane amount on ads, never made more than $5,000 a month inside of their practice. And
Crazy.
by some crazy connection, we actually were mutual friends with someone who I used to work with, and he recommended that they contact us. And this was their last ditch effort. They're going to shut down their practice, give up, and just go back to their jobs. And they didn't think that anyone in their town in a million years would pay $1,500, $2,000 for a cash package, but they weren't in a position to kind of like debate it with us. So they just listened. And within 60 days, we got them to the point where they're doing $20,000 a month consistently.
Dang.
By that June, they were doing $50,000. They joined us in October. By that June, they're doing $50,000 a month in their practice. Today, they
Jeez.
just reported that they're doing $85,000 in their practice and have 7 employees and are now like removed. That is a year
Oof.
and a half, 2 years turnaround time from completely giving up on our dreams. This will never work out for us in our small Hodunk town to running a 7-figure behemoth that now gives them all
Man,
their time back. And they're asking us where should they invest their money next,
that's incredible.
right?
I love that.
It's it's a really cool transformation because they're just like the most amazing people. And that's the like the best part about this because some of the people who have the most to give, they're the quietest people in the room. And that makes local networking and workshops a difficult strategy to build momentum with. And what we've been able to help people do through paid advertising and social media marketing is allow those people that are quieter, that have so much to give, to be found and to be heard and to make the impact that they know they can make in the world. And so stories
Mm,
like that, like, oh, it gets me
it's
honestly
so
like
good.
emotional. That it's so cool to see stuff like that.
I love it. And even more like you said, kind of a more typical case. I mean, what are you guys seeing across like even clinics who are just coming in, they're implementing the things that you say, like, and they're absolutely still crushing it, which has been fun for me to see. Even some of y'all's testimonials on that.
Yeah, so I'd say the most typical person when they start running ads, they will get to 15K a month very, very easily with ads, typically between like a 3 to 4x return on ad spend. And that's like the really fun, like honeymoon stage of growing a practice. But soon after that, depending on where this person is at in their entrepreneurial journey, they realize that there's another set of skills that they have to acquire in order to
So
get to
good.
that. So with Facebook ads, they can streamline your acquisition and it's easy to get to that 5-figure month or 5-figure per month mark where you're making more money. But you can pretty much get there just on skill alone. But in order to get to that next level where you're doing 20, $30,000 a month, now we're looking at potentially being able to hire and get our time back so we can focus on other parts of our lives. That requires a level of discipline that takes time for some people to acquire because you have to start changing yourself. Like
Mm,
to get to 15K a month, it requires changing the systems of the business. But to get to like 20 to 30K per month, you have to start changing you and how
mm,
you approach your day every day, how you structure your afternoons, how you block off time, how you determine how you fill that time. All of those things are what create sustainable long-term success that you can scale from. And so most people, when they're just getting started, if they're starting from like zero, they'll get to 15K a month in their practice, and they'll basically ride that out for about 6 months or so. Sometimes faster. Again, this totally depends on who you are. I'm talking about
Sure.
the person who never intended to start their practice. They did so out of necessity because
Yeah.
they knew they would never be able to retire off of what they're getting paid from their current job, or it was just sapping the life out of them. So for those people, once they get to that stage, 3 to 6 months of learning how to think and act like an entrepreneur and get out of that 9 to 5 mindset. But for those who like are hungry and they got that
Mm.
fire in them already. I mean, it's very typical just to shoot right up to that like 2022 mark, or 22K per month mark in their practice. And then they're honestly, they're all like pretty comfortable. They coast that out. They're making more money than ever. They have more time than ever because they're still only seeing 20 to 25 visits a
Right.
week. They don't have to do the workshops. And then they stay there until it dawns on them that their lives would be easier and they'd be making more money if they hire. And then that's the next set of steps.
Yeah.
And so there's several like plateaus that naturally happen with people when they're running like Facebook ads and they find that like quick growth that happens. And so that's kind of what the typical journey looks like. They get to 15
Yeah.
a month, they coast, they have some dips, and then they realize their problem is their discipline and their time management. They solve that, then they have a well fine-tuned machine. Then they're like, crap, I'm leaving a lot of opportunity on the table by doing everything myself. And that's the third stage.
Yeah, heck yeah. When do I think there's a lot of confusion about when someone should start, ads, for example, right? They get really confused as to, hey, do I need to go out and do a bunch of workshops and kind of hustle and grind for a while and like meet with people? And then they're like, then I start ads. Like, when do you typically recommend cash practice just like jumping into ads?
100% depends on the scenario. If you have the cash flow, and you can afford to spend $50 a day on ads, and so it's about $1,500 a month. If you can go 2 months spending $1,500 a month without having to, if you got nothing in return, and most people get a return very quickly if you're working with someone that knows what they're talking about. But if you can spend that much without having to sell your house or miss a mortgage payment or have to eat ramen every day, then you can afford to start running ads. And I'd recommend starting right away. There's no the idea of starting with workshops and that is what you just have to do. And there's a natural order of operations with growing your business is the reason why so many practices are failing, because a lot of them, they have high hopes and dreams, they have this vision, and then they go out and they start networking with people and they're not getting the time of day just because the people who they're trying to get referrals from, not that they're bad people, but you're the fourth person to contact them today to try to set something up, and they can smell
Yeah.
your motives a mile away. And so if you already have relationships in town, you'd be insane to start there. Even if you're a millionaire, start with the relationships that are the hottest that you can get referrals from, of course. But if you're in a scenario where you're in a very competitive market and it's hard to get the time of day to build a relationship up to the point where you can get consistent workshops enough to sustain the business and you and your life, well, then it's absolutely ludicrous to not start running ads, to start getting opportunities, to start developing the skills required to be successful, so that while you're continuing to do those workshops and continuing to do that networking, you're not doing so from a place of desperation. You have
Mm.
people coming in, you have cash flow coming in. You don't need them to say yes, which paradoxically gets them to want to say yes more often. And so it's not that you should start with one or the other, it's that you should do both if you can. Um, yeah, you should do both if you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of people too. A common thing I see practice owners try to do is they'll do one of two things: is they will either try to say, "I'm just going to bootstrap this thing. I'm going to try to start ads on my own, and like I'm going to try to figure it out. Maybe I'll throw a couple dollars at Facebook and run a link to my website, and like I get nobody, so ads don't work." Or then the flip side, I'll see a lot of other practices. They'll burn through a lot of marketing agencies, right? And they just get burned over and over and over again. So let's start with the first group and kind of talk about, hey, they just try to bootstrap some ads and figure it out. Like it's such a terrible idea, especially me being on this side of like running ads and how we have for so long and working with you guys. It's like there's a lot that you don't know that you think you can figure out on your own. So like what are some common your responses to that, or maybe common mistakes people have when they're trying to bootstrap their own ads?
It's no different than your chronic patient trying to use YouTube to solve their condition.
Oh, hit the
Um,
nail on the head. Mic drop.
right. There's a million reasons why it could not be working, and there's a million different solutions that might work to solve it. And so, yes, bootstrapping it, as someone who bootstrapped my entire life for years, like I understand the how good it feels to unlock that and figure that out on your own. But I was broke for 5 years as I did that. And there's just such an easier way to do it. And so if you are going to bootstrap it, I mean, you can either spend the years and all of the resources that you're going to invest to figure it out, or you can just invest into someone who knows what they're doing to show you how to do it. Like when people bootstrap it, what they're really doing is they're putting a quarter in a gumball machine and hoping they get like the right flavor. And
Ooh,
it's it's crazy because in order to be successful with ads, it is a pay to play game. And if you're willing to pay, you will get the results for it. But the problem is like these tests that people are doing, they are putting in $5 a day with some random stock image with an offer that they
mm,
just made up on the spot that they don't know that no one wants, and they're wondering why it doesn't work. You didn't test the offer on a market. You didn't create variations to find out what the market actually likes and will respond to, and you didn't come close to spending enough money to show it to enough people to have statistically relevant information to draw conclusions from. And so it's like, um,
heck yeah.
it's like there's so many things that can go wrong, and it's just crazy to not at least go and find the people who are doing it successfully in your niche who can show you how to do it, whether those are free resources or just reaching out and just asking or investing in like programs that help with this stuff. There's hundreds of them. Um, so by all means, experiment, but at the end of the day, realize it's like if you really want to be great at something and you really want to get results with something, and the kind of results that most people are looking for are the life-changing kind, you're probably going to have to put a little bit more time, energy, and effort and invest in it to make it happen, you know?
Yeah, heck yeah. I love that. And I think that's the biggest thing I've always seen in my practice as well. Like, dude, I can either like in my house, for example, I could go out back right now. I could probably build a deck on my in my backyard. It's going to take me 10 times as much time. I'm going to
Yeah.
burn through probably twice as much lumber because I don't know how to measure and effectively like, cut the notches and things I need to cut. It's like, sure, I'll get there, but I'm going to waste a lot of time, effort, and money, and I'm going to be super probably pissed by the end of my time of trying to put that together, you know?
It's funny you say that. I totally just botched hanging up Jenna's new like glass whiteboard that I bolted in the wall. There's so many holes in the wall because I tried to. And that's an embarrassing one. That should be a really easy one, but I got the studs wrong.
I love that. I've done
That
that
goes to the
before.
point. I could have just had someone who's used the stud finder to help me do that before. I've never done that. It's ridiculous.
Oh,
Um,
it's so funny.
the an analogy that I used recently that struck a chord with some people was, and this goes for Facebook ads, this goes for your business. It's like people are putting in they're treating their Facebook ads or working on their business like it's an exam that they procrastinated studying for. And they're only
Ooh,
trying to learn it and rush through doing it last minute to get a passing grade. But it's like if you're trying to run a successful business, which basically means you're setting the curve, if we're going with the school analogy, because most businesses never reach a level of sustainability. So you're trying to set the curve, but you're bringing this C student and B student mentality towards learning the things that you need to be successful. And if you're only haphazardly testing things and only testing it for a little while, or only working on the business when everything seems dire and that it's not working, then, well, of course, you're never going to be successful. But if you're proactive about it, you map out a plan, you have a target, you come up with a strategy to reach that target, and you actually track how things are progressing, well, then
Mm.
it becomes really easy, just like the student that decides to every day study for an hour rather than for 8 hours straight the night before the exam.
So good, so good. Yeah, procrastinating is the worst. It feels terrible, like, but people still do it anyway. It cracks me up.
That's the kind of student I was. I was 1,000%. Like the night before, pot of coffee, read the whole thing, go in, get a solid B, and I'm good with that. You can't
I
do
love
that
it.
in business. You can't do that in
No,
business.
dude,
You can't do
you'll
that.
burn out so quick. Like you'll flame out, and you're like, I'm done with this.
Right. Because you're going to spend that 8 hours making something that you think is really cool, and the market isn't going to care at all, and you're not going to make any money on it. And then that defeat is going to pour into everything else that you do. It's small, consistent action that creates success, no matter what it is you're doing.
Yeah, I love that. On the other flip side of marketing, you get these people who will they say, "Hey, I want to invest in a coach, and or I want to get somebody to teach me how to run ads," and they'll go hire somebody who's a marketing agency, and they're just churning and burning folks, right? And I mean, this is kind of our story as well. Like we've paid several marketing agencies before we started working with you guys, and just trash results, man. Trash leads, just was not getting the ROI. And a lot of times these marketing agencies will just point the finger back at you and not take any ownership of it. It's certainly the practice owner's got to take some ownership too. But how do you go about, telling somebody how do they distinguish somebody who's just trying to take their money and somebody who's actually truly cares about them and wants to help them get their business where they want it to go?
The number one thing is, do they have the life that you want to have? That is going
Mm,
to nail down 99% of the options that you're looking at, because most of the agencies that are out there, sure, like you think you need leads, but what you really need is someone who can teach you how to become a business operator, because you want leads so that you can make more money, so that you can have a successful business, so you can have the kind of life that you dreamed of when you got into this whole profession. And so find a coach that not only does what it is that you do. If you're a cash physical therapist, find a coach that actually runs a cash physical therapy practice and does so at the level of success that you want to have. And look at the retention of the people around those programs. Okay. Like for us. So, first of all, find someone who has the life that you want so that they can teach you how to get it. And then take a look at, okay, who are the people on their team? Because the absolute best programs are going to attract the best talent. And so
mm,
if it's someone who's saying like, hey, I've built a super successful clinic way back in a few years ago, and then I exited it, and now I'm a marketer, that should raise some flags for you, especially if they're solo, because if they had such a successful business, why'd they get rid of it?
right. Hang on to
And
that bad boy. Keep growing it.
exactly. If you're a great business operator, you would never sell your practice because you got it to the point where it's self-sustaining. And why would you ever exit that? Um, so that's a big thing. But then when it comes to like agencies, honestly, I wouldn't work with them. Not in
I
cash
love that.
physical therapy. Um, I've ran one. And the truth is that there's so many charlatans out there because there's so many coaching programs that are teaching people that they can have passive income from their laptop, and then they teach them high quality, like high value sales skills to be able to speak the language and to sell you stuff on it, but they have no intention of ever actually getting great results.
Mm,
The actual coaching in these programs is that you shouldn't expect to retain any of your clients longer than 4 months. And the reason
ooh,
for that is because when you initially launch Facebook ads, there is a surge of success initially because Facebook wants you to win, so you keep paying more money. But then ads naturally fatigue down. And for these agencies, it is more cost effective to replace you as a client than to invest in the teams required to manage your ads to get them to not fatigue.
mm,
That is the economics of an
ooh.
advertising agency. I wouldn't do it. And it's also easier now than ever to run your ads. AI does most of the work. You just need someone to point you in the direction of what should you be offering, what should you be advertising, and what are the systems that your practice needs to have to convince absolute strangers to want to work with you. Facebook ads are the easy part. Facebook ads are the easy part. Do those in-house and find a coach who can show you how to do the stuff that really matters, that makes you a real success and scalable, which is the systems for nurturing and converting prospects into patients.
Yeah, heck yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing that separates you guys is like you truly teach people how to actually run these ads. Like, and you teach them the gears and levers they need to turn and pull, right? And it's like no one's going to care more about that than the clinic owner. You know what I mean? But I can go back to you guys, and still to this day, 2.5 years later, 3 years later, maybe even, where
We get
like I can literally go to somebody on your team. Hey, what's working right now from a either creative or copy standpoint? They tell me what's working, and I go tweak those things. And it doesn't take me that long to manage. But these people who pay monthly retainers to these companies and they're doing this much to their ads is absurd.
right. What's harder? Overcoming the fear of managing, sorry about that.
Oh,
Overcoming the
good.
fear of learning how to manage a little bit of tech, or putting your entire livelihood and future in the hands of someone who very likely won't make, you are not going to make an impact or difference in their life whatsoever. Like
Yeah.
that's a big gamble to make on someone who, to them, you're incredibly replaceable. It's I just it's crazy.
That's a rough place to be.
It's a rough place to be. It's a rough place to be for sure.
I love it. Well, Jordan, dude, this is always fun rapping about all the stuff I love to geek out about as well. And yeah, dude, I appreciate you hopping on. How do we get in contact with you? How do we learn more about you guys and what you guys do? And where's the best place we can find you guys?
Yeah, I would say you can check us out on Instagram, Clinical Marketer, or you can find me. It's I am Jordan Mather. If you're looking for training resources and some of the free things that we just put out there, just look us up either on School or on YouTube, Cash Physical Therapy School. You'll find us.
Yeah, you guys have some sick resources. We'll link those below, and there's a ton of free resources in y'all's group. So definitely go check those out. And Jordan, thanks as always, brother.
Yeah, no, it was a real pleasure. If there's ever anything I can do to serve you in the community, I'm more than happy to come on here, and really appreciate you taking the time to make it happen.
Yeah, you're welcome, brother. Talk soon, man.